Welcome to another episode of vBrownBag Meet the Expert here at the Cincinnati UserCon. I am here with Josh Fidel, a person who I have admired and followed on Twitter for a long time. This is actually my first time meeting him. Josh, please tell the viewers who you are and what you do.
So I am a senior systems engineer for vSAN, software-defined storage for VMware. Currently, I work in the globals in central US.
Okay. So the reason why this is called Meet the Expert is because we are here to get to know you, like really get to know you. And one thing that I love to start with is, how did you get into IT? How did you get, tell me everything about how you ended up doing this role that you just told us you do. It's a long story, I know, and don't be shy, go for it.
To be completely honest, how I ended up in IT, I was working as a cab driver in New Orleans, and I ran into a friend of mine at a coffee shop, and he said, hey, the state of Louisiana has this program that will pay you to go to school, pay for your classes, give you a per diem for food, pay for your testing, and all you have to do is qualify for this program. And because I was a cab driver, I qualified for the program, and I went to Loyola University and got my NT4 MCSE and started. I've done everything, building white boxes in mom and pop shops, desktop support, all the way to where I am now.
You are kidding that one of the best minds in the business right now could have perfectly not been here, because were you even interested in computers before that?
I was interested. I knew that they were going to take over. I used to read a lot of science fiction. I saw it coming, and always had an interest. You know, started out doing a little bit of programming here and there. I mean, the first computer I had was a Commodore 64 with the little cassette tapes, write the logo program to make the turtle go around the screen. So I've always been interested in them, and this just kind of happened.
Okay. Well, tell me about that. Like, was it literally just, because one thing that we've debated, a lot of people go to college thinking they like computers, right? Mm-hmm. And it turns out that once they learn about system administration, which is not a career, right? But there's a lot of jobs out there, and it's really cool because you actually get to play with the gear and think about the gear and stuff. So it's, a lot of people that went to computer science didn't actually do a programming career, right? So tell me about this, because it actually sounds like they just gave you enough to go get the job. Did they force you to work for the state or something?
No. I did work in Louisiana for a time, but it was an initiative back in the 90s to get more IT professionals in Louisiana.
That's
because
amazing.
they didn't have enough. And when you talk about college and computer science and whatnot, initially when I first went to school, I went to school as a double major in cello and opera.
I'm kidding.
Yeah, that was my major when I first went to college. So yeah,
and then cab driving.
Long, convoluted story. I traveled a lot internationally. I was in the Marine Corps.
There's a lot of history here.
It's a long, sordid story.
Let's try to do like little steps, okay?
Little steps.
So you went to college, opera and cello, which is one of my favorite instruments.
Yes.
Graduated?
No.
Okay. What do? Did you enlist?
Went to college, being a Ohio small town boy, and being free for the first time in my life. I may have gone a little overboard in some of my recreational activities, and so lasted a semester at school, and they said you need to go home and calm down. So I went home, calmed down. Long story, ended up in Mexico for a while, lived in Acapulco for a while. It was awesome.
No kidding.
That's actually
amazing.
The little bit of Spanish I know, that's where I learned it. Came back, joined the Marine Corps because I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. Did my time in the Corps, left the Corps. Actually lived in Nagoya, Japan for a while, teaching English for my uncle.
Love Japan.
I love Japan. It's awesome. It's where I developed my love of sushi, actually. And lived in Japan for a while, came back.
You're a man of the world at this point.
I've been around the block once or twice, yes. But ended up in New Orleans. There was a relationship. And the relationship fell apart, but I fell in love with New Orleans, so I stayed there, and that's when I got into computers.
Actually, you have to capture this in the camera.
What? Oh, yeah, New Orleans. That's you'll always see me with some fleur-de-lis on me somewhere. They're very close to my heart, so boop, and I hit my microphone, sorry. But yeah, so...
and once you went to that program, was it like, oh my God, I found a calling, this is what I want to do?
Yeah, absolutely. It was... once I really started getting into it, I wanted to know more and more and more. And how does this work? And why does a program do this? And how does the network do this? And that's why I've actually worn so many hats. I've been a storage guy. I've been a security guy. I've been a desktop virtualization guy. I actually, when the recession came, I was a consultant. When the recession came, I went inside to a hospital and helped them build an electronic medical record system from the ground up.
Okay.
I was the only systems guy, and I built it on Dell storage, running, at the time it was Citrix Zen Server 4.0. And I built
when
this.
You said you built the EMR like on PHP or on
so it was 10 programmers and myself, and they were doing a lot. Trying to think everything they were doing. A lot of Ruby. Doing a lot of stuff with JSON, started getting into Mongo and Raven DB, so doing a lot of NoSQL objects with it.
So that was what, 10 years ago?
Yeah, about that, yeah. 2006, 2007. And the funny thing is, I still stay in touch with those guys. And after I left the hospital and went to work for another consulting company, they didn't touch that infrastructure for 4 years. They didn't upgrade it. Nobody even with my documentation, they didn't understand it. They didn't know how to work with it. They just left it alone. And it ran 4 years straight, solid, no downtime. It did not go down until they finally turned it off because they transferred everything to a new system. That's like, things like that, when you build an infrastructure that is so solid and perfect that it's not gonna fall over, that's one of the things that drives me. That's why I love vSAN. I can build these things that are solid, that save our customers money, and it makes me really, really happy.
So tell me how you got into VMware.
How did I get into VMware? So
how long have you been in VMware?
So I joined VMware in April of 2016. And
you just crossed your year mark.
I just
a year and a half.
Year and a half, yeah, about 18 months, right? So I worked, I can say, I worked for CDW before VMware, and I was one of the first storage engineers at a large consulting company to be cross-trained. I went out and I got my VMware training. So I knew EMC storage and VMware, which CDW loved, because instead of sending two guys to do a job, they could just send me, right? And I learned so much so quickly there. So thank you, CDW, for that.
No, I've learned since that not just you're basically one of the faces of vSAN on Twitter, but I also learned that you know SRM very well and you know a lot of stuff. So
I do. I guess they say you want to be well-rounded, you want to be a Renaissance man. I kind of view myself as an IT Renaissance man. I've been trying to tell people for the last probably 3 years that the days of a specialized administrator are over. We're just not cost effective to businesses that way. You can't just be the storage guy or the desktop guy or the virtualization guy. You have to, and it also can't be a mile wide and an inch deep. You have to be a mile wide and a half mile deep, right? Study, learn, stay in school, kids.
Well, tell me about that, because you started with your career saying, I don't want to study. I want to see the world, basically. And now you're like, God, I want to get so deep in everything. So tell me about that personal trajectory of yours, or your mindset. How did it change, right? Because obviously IT clicked something in you.
It did.
But you could have just, you've been in a bunch of places. What motivates you to change, right? Because you clearly have achieved something and then moved on to something else. So tell me more about your internal mindset about, okay, when do you look for those changes and stuff?
It's really organic. I want to learn every day. I want to study. If I'm not learning something new every day, it wasn't really a successful day, right? We're students until the day they put us in the ground. If we're not learning something every day until we're dead, what's the point, right? There's so much out there. And the problem is, I realize there's so much out there. You can't learn all of it. It's impossible. But I want to get as much as I can.
Okay.
Right?
So the task was not, it's too big, but I'm going to do my best anyways.
That's right. I may not make it to the summit of Everest, but I'm going to get as high as I possibly can.
Cool. All right. Well, this is I think we're getting to know you and your personality a little bit. Any tidbits, for example, for 18-year-old Josh, when he was in school, he didn't know exactly what he wanted to do, or he didn't think that this was worth his time. Any other tidbits that you can give people that are maybe starting in IT, and they may be overwhelmed maybe with all these things? Because honestly, infrastructure admins get tossed a lot of information, and not a lot of it is deep. Like, you get tossed a lot of marketing. But then if you really want to learn it, you better get a home lab or something, because otherwise there's no real good way to learn, right? So give us your tips.
Yes, get a home lab. Learn to cut through the marketing BS. I'm trying to keep PG-13 here. There's a lot of marketing out there that it flat out lies, right? And the only way you're going to learn the truth is to get hands-on with things. And even if it's not, even if you don't go out and buy equipment for your home lab. However, I mean, you can get used powered servers on eBay for like $300, $400.
I bought in the last year maybe 7-8 hosts, all secondhand.
Yeah, and it's really inexpensive, right? These businesses want to offload this stuff. However, if you are in charge of selling servers on eBay, please wipe your drives before you put them on eBay. All right, bad things happen.
DBAN. Use DBAN.
Yeah. Well, 7 pass zeros, yeah. Whatever, magnets, anything. Until you get hands-on, but it could be something as simple as VMware hands-on labs, right? The hands-on labs are great. You can go in. It's a free resource. You can learn every single VMware product under the sun, which I'm slowly working my way through, right? Because I want to know vRealize Orchestrator, vRealize Automation. I want to know NSX.
Well, and I think I'm a VMware employee myself, and I think that part of the fun for us is walking into a customer that has a different way of having used our products, and if we're not familiar with that way, or we haven't seen that before, we have to quickly learn, right?
Yes.
So that's a very cool part of the job for us. But for the typical administrator, like you say, if you don't know about something and you want to learn very quickly, hands-on labs are the no excuse kind of thing. You don't need to spend a single dime. You just go into a web browser and get to learn.
You log on and go.
Yeah. And the best part, and we've said this ad nauseum, but you don't have to do the lab. You can just use it to test something else that you want to do.
Oh yeah, I break stuff in our labs all the time. I encourage it, actually.
Yep. All right. My God, I didn't see that you had your.
This okay. So the shirt was actually a gift from my wife.
Very cool.
Yeah, and that's and somebody once told me, if you have 2 middle names, so my middle name Charles Edward, if you have 2 middle names, for some reason people think you're smarter. I don't know why, but apparently that's a perception. So.
Okay.
I have 2 middle names. Might as well use them.
You kind of you sound smarter in this interview.
It's because I have 2 middle. Yeah.
All right. Well, do you have a blog?
I do. It's currently down because I didn't like the way it was. When it is back up and running, it will be the letter V, Fidel.com, the V Fidel, which amuses me.
Now, great question there. You said you were from Ohio. How did you end up with Fidel as a last name? Because I'm obviously from Costa Rica, right?
Right. So it's actually from the Latin fidelis. My father's family, my adoptive father, his family is from Slovenia, and in Slovenia, his family It was back, I think it was like the 8th century, 9th century. They paid to build the church in their village. So in recognition of that, the church actually, gave the family the last name of Fidelis. So when we came over, in the late 1700s, it got changed to Fidel.
Okay.
Right? Which is funny because everyone, they see my name and they think.
I thought for a second so your Twitter picture doesn't, at least the one I saw, was kind of dark.
Yeah.
So I couldn't tell if is this guy Cuban or not.
No, I get mail in Spanish all the time. I've actually had Spanish missionaries come to my house, which is I know very little Spanish. I need to work on that and learn more. But I all the time people see my last name and they think I'm Hispanic.
Yeah. Well, and the worst part is a little Spanish. So.
Just enough to get by.
Okay, and lastly, your Twitter handle, because I know you're active on Twitter as we all are.
Yes.
Actually, not lastly. I'll ask you one more thing after your Twitter handle.
JCE Fidel.
Perfect. Now, tell me about when did you get into the V community and what did you find there? And has it been positive for you? What do you think of the V community and especially Twitter?
I did it because I didn't see enough information around vSAN out there. We do have some corporate accounts that they're very they're very corporate.
Yeah,
right?
most VMware accounts are politically correct. They give you access and links and stuff.
Yeah, here's our little story. Check out our little story. Okay, great. I want more engagement. I use more humor. I may at times be a little more controversial. Hi, Chad. Chad's awesome, though. Don't ever let anyone tell you different. I may be a little more opinionated. I want people to see that the people who work at VMware are just not kind of these dry, boring corporate. I can't even think of it, like robots, right? We're not robots. We're human beings. We live, we breathe, we bleed, we cry, and we laugh and we have a good time.
No, and I think your account especially shows, and there are others, but it shows passion for vSAN.
Huge amount of passion.
Yes, so that's really cool to see.
Actually the story, well, next time we'll tell the story of how I got into vSAN.
Okay.
But I'm very passionate about vSAN as a product, about VMware as a whole. The SDDC vision is completely changing the face of IT in the enterprise, and I think that's massive, right? It's a huge shift, and I want to make sure people are prepared for that.
Josh, there's no next time. Tell us about how you got into vSAN. I'm not going to leave that spoiler there.
All right. I was going for a sequel.
There's no time limit. Come on.
I was going for a sequel.
Everybody goes like,
So when I worked at CDW, I worked very, very hard for them, and my saint of a wife put up with it.
Lots of travel?
Lots of travel. Well, there was one 6-month period I was gone Monday through Friday every week. And we have 3 small children, so that was really rough on her. But for 6 quarters in a row, I was the top producing engineer for my division. So as kind of a thank you, they sent me to, at the time it was EMC World, right, in 2015. Today we call it Dell EMC World. And I'd never been a big convention person. I was kind of lost. And I went into...
Had you been to a VM World before this?
I had not.
Okay.
This was my first big convention, woohoo. I had been to Vegas before, another story. But so I'm at EMC World. I'm this, engineer who's kind of bedazzled by everything, and I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know where to go, and I was looking at my schedule, and I didn't know what I should see.
First time you go to a conference, it's all about your agenda.
Yeah, like what am I going to do? And I saw something that said software-defined storage. I had no idea what that meant. I know what storage is, so it must apply to me somehow, but what is software defined? And I went into this presentation, and it was Rawlinson Rivera and Jace McCarty presenting vSAN. And as they were presenting, I realized, and I take every presentation with a grain of salt, like, okay, maybe it really works like that. But even at a fundamental level, if what they were saying was correct, it was going to completely redefine storage, right? Gone are these monolithic arrays. Gone is fiber channel. Gone are LUNs. Gone is zoning. Gone is aliasing. And if that's true,
my life just changed.
My entire life just changed. So I started reading up on it, and Rollo, Jace, you guys did it. This is your fault. Thank you. I realized that, wow, code is life now.
Yeah. And you saw this by that year. You said this is the first version of vSAN that came out.
Yeah, 2015. And I realized that's what I want to do. That's where I want to go. This makes sense to me from an economic standpoint, from a technology standpoint. This is where I need to be.
So you came back to CDW and told them, I want to do vSAN.
No, I was still working at CDW. Things being what they were, and there were some changes coming at CDW, and I kind of saw like, maybe storage isn't going to be there forever.
Your heart had been stolen anyway.
Yeah, my heart had been stolen. I made that change.
How do you prepare? Because I know those kind of positions where you have to be a specialist on something particularly are, those are the interviews that go 6, 7, 8 rounds. So how do you prepare, like from an engineering, like from yourself? Did you say, okay, I'm just going to read everything I find on vSAN, I'm going to test everything I can on vSAN, I'm going to know all the Ruby commands, or I can't remember what the little console is there?
Yeah, the RVC, Ruby vSphere console, yeah.
Yeah.
I read everything I could, and I was good at storage. I understand storage. I understand sizing and capacity and IOPS and throughput. And I actually, if I remember correctly, I think I had like 11 interviews for the position.
And did you actually apply to something that said vSAN, or was it just an IC when you applied?
Actually, the first time I applied to VMware, I applied as a TAM, and I did not get that position. And then the next time I applied as a core SE and did not get the position.
Oh my God.
And the third time, VMware actually contacted me because they were expanding the vSAN, the number of teams throughout the country. They knew I was a storage guy. They knew I had VMware experience, so they contacted me.
They probably had a little note that he thinks vSAN is the future.
I was just wanting to get to VMware because I think I've never, complete transparency, we're both VMware, but VMware has a vision that is moving towards the future. VMware is a responsible corporate citizen. I mean, we just planted 1 million trees down in Louisiana. Pat Gelsinger, I cannot state how much respect I have for this man. The first time I met Pat, he didn't even know who I was, and he held the door open for me. Like, he opened the door, we were walking in, he held it for me. How many CEOs do you know?
Pat's.
He's awesome.
Full disclosure, right? Within the first 3 weeks in there, I found out that there was an Ask Pat mailbox. Mm-hmm. I asked him what his favorite books were, and I didn't hear anything for about a week. Mm-hmm. And then I said, yeah, he's a CEO. We just going through VMware and everything. Then I get an email from one of his assistants saying, hey, Pat answered your question, but he replied to a mailbox instead of you. Here's the response. The guy had responded like within 3 days.
Okay.
And he gave me a very long list of good books to read. And I'm like,
how many CEOs take the time out of their day to give that kind of leadership?
Yeah.
No,
and he's
a great guy.
Super admirable.
Yeah. Did you see on Twitter he went and there's an orphanage and a school that VMware supports, that Pat supports. in Africa, and like I could not be more proud of that.
Yeah.
Right?
No, we're all very proud of it.
Yeah.
It's yeah.
Cheers, Pat. Good job. So
So you finally got in
I finally got in
to VMware,
and I got in as vSAN, which made me so happy.
Exactly, and you get into the same team with Jace, right?
Well, so Jace is on technical marketing, and I'm a field sales SE, right? We do work closely together. As a matter of fact, we'll both be in Palo Alto next week. We're doing some training. I'm giving some training on vSAN troubleshooting. Yeah.
It's amazing how it comes full circle and stuff.
Everything came full circle, and it's great, and it's awesome, and from here it's just onward and upward. I've seen the future roadmap for vSAN, and some of the acquisitions we're making. We just came out with a new acquisition today. Have you seen Wavefront yet?
I've seen.
Wavefront's awesome. As a matter of fact, I was talking to. Do you know Pontus?
No.
No. Okay. So Pontus is he's a cloud automation guy. He does excellent coder. And he does Wavefront, and he and I were talking at a team meeting, and what we realized is that you could have continuous QA on a manufacturing line in a plant if you use computerized quality probes, constantly feeding Wavefront, and then any variance that was outside, say, more than a half a standard deviation would instantly trigger like alarm.
Right.
And you could utilize Wavefront
because
to
that
do
code,
this.
the code can be applied to
Anything.
It doesn't have to be just logging. It can be real time, like you're saying. It can be.
It is a real time. So Pontus is the guy who won a hackathon for using VRUPs to track his son's insulin for his diabetes. I mean, when you talk about like really being innovative and going,
applying it.
Yeah. And that's another reason I love VMware is there's so many innovative people, right? And we're thinking about things in different ways, and it's not all, this is how we do things here. No, it's not that at all. They want radio, right? The radio conference, they want to hear our ideas, and I love that.
So, we'll end here. I know I've taken a lot of your time, more
problem.
than you thought, but I just wanted to tell you, your passion is admirable. It's contagious, and I'm just so happy to finally meet you.
Pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Cheers.